like I said, Dukes. If you hadn't had a chance to check out their table upstairs, their graphic novel A.W.O.L, about a Chicana who goes AWOL to rescue her brother who's been kidnapped. Really great. What Comic-Cons you got coming up next? I know you have.
Yes, so our book is currently in English, and it also got translated to Spanish and Japanese. And so the Spanish version will premiere at SoulCon and CXC in Columbus, Ohio at the end of this month. And the Japanese version is going to premiere at Tokyo Comic Con in December. And next week we'll be in Utah at the FanX Comic Con. And so it's been a year since the book came out, so this is our first year anniversary, and so it's the Black Label edition if you buy our book today. And Ronnie Dukes, my partner and also my husband, he's upstairs selling books, so that's why he's not here with me. So yes, we're very excited. It took us 8 years to make the book. It started off as a screenplay. My background is in film, I'm a filmmaker, and it's an action adventure film. It deals with the military because it's about a soldier who goes AWOL. And so it was just kind of difficult, as the gentleman said earlier, you know, what it takes to make a feature film. And so after 4 years of trying to make the film, I did all the storyboards. I decided with Ronnie, I said, why don't we make this into a graphic novel instead first, and then eventually get to the film. And so it took Ronnie another 4 years to turn my stick figures, because my storyboards were pretty much stick figures. He made them into three-dimensional characters. And so he is the penciler, the inker, the colorist, and he also did the lettering and also the layout. And so it took him another 4 years to do that. So total, it took us 8 years. And mainly because it's our first graphic novel, and so we're very inexperienced, and so it was a lot of trial and error. But hopefully, we have 2 projects that we're working on right now. Part 2 is more of a sci-fi version of A.W.O.L, and sort of the continuation of the story. And we're also working on another book called Dukes of Chuco. So Dukes is our last name, and El Paso is known as El Chuco. And so we're the Dukes of Chuco. And so we're working on that book as well, and hopefully that'll be coming out next year.
I'm excited to work on this with your husband is the artist, right?
Yes. So we, as I'm sure other artists have mentioned throughout the day, you know, sometimes it's hard to immediately get a publisher who comes and says, we want to publish your book. So we decided to self-publish. So for those of you interested in making your own books, we used Create Space, which is through Amazon, and it's print on demand. And so basically, you send them a PDF of your book, and they check it, they make sure all the margins are correct, and the text and the font, and then once they approve it, then they put it online on Amazon, and then it's print on demand. So anytime someone orders a book, or even us, whenever we want to sell books, we have to buy them ourselves in order to sell them. But since it came out that way, we do have an ISBN number. It's available through Follett, and basically we started talking to librarians, and they were the ones who told us, you know, what companies to go through. So we also use Baker and Taylor, which is what a lot of librarians use. And it's as an ebook, it's also digital, so you can get it on your Kindle or Comixology. For those of you who are interested in reading ebooks, what makes Comixology different is that it's not just a PDF, it actually guides you. So it zooms into each frame in the book, and it kind of curates your experience of reading a graphic novel. The book has been taught in a young adult literature class at the University of Texas at El Paso. And there was a researcher and a scholar who wrote a book about young adult literature, and he actually featured our book in his book. And so that was really amazing, and that's just through sort of talking to people. We go to classrooms, we talk to students. We've done comic book workshops at the El Paso Museum of Art, so we work with a lot of kids. And again, another part of our mission is to just make this art form accessible to everyone. So we tell kids and everybody who asks, how we went through the process, and that it is possible to produce your own work. And so that's the beginning of our journey.
And it's also available at the El Paso Museum of Art?
Yes, so it's at the El Paso Museum of Art. You can buy it in the museum. It's available through Barnes & Noble. So it just kind of, like wildfire, it just kind of spread, and now it's taking us overseas. And like I said, it's only been out for a year. So we're just hoping to, find more readers and get it into as many hands as possible. We want to encourage this type of literature, and for anybody who maybe doesn't like to read, especially adults, I'm also an educator, I'm a teacher. I work at El Paso Community College. I'm an assistant professor there. And so I always tell adults, especially those who say I don't like to read, I say maybe start with a young adult literature book, because at least, you have images, you have a guided experience, and it just makes easing into reading that much easier.
Can you tell us just, I know I hit on it just a little bit, but what your graphic novel is about?
Yes. So A.W.O.L stands for Away Without Official Leave. It's a military term, and it's about a Chicana soldier who goes AWOL from the military in order to save her brother's life. So her brother has been kidnapped, and it takes place in El Paso, Texas. So it kind of deals with the corruption that we've heard about in the news, and I wanted to feature my hometown. And a lot of my work that I do is about El Paso, Texas, and my hometown.
And so the next chapter in that story is about what again?
Yes, so the book is 107 pages. It's a graphic novel, so you do get a complete story when you get it. And it's action, drama, adventure. And so for part 2, which we're working on, we want to make it more of a sci-fi genre, and so we're kind of expanding her world. And as I mentioned earlier, we're also working on our other book called Dukes of Chubo.
And so for somebody that says I want to start my own comic, I want to do my own comic, the way you did it, what can they expect? What's the best piece of advice?
Yes, so my piece of advice is, reach out to the community, get in touch with as many readers as possible. We've gone to teachers' conferences where they're specifically looking for books for their libraries. We've gone to classrooms, we've gone to the museum, we go to Comic-Cons. We just try to get out there as much as possible. And so it takes a lot of hustle, and so that would be what I would say, for those who want to know what to expect. It takes a lot of hustle, and fortunately I have Ronnie Dukes, who's my partner, and we help each other because I also work a full-time job. And so, but we're just constantly working. And I would just say, think about other ways to tell your story if one way is not working. So for example, we were trying to make a film, but that wasn't working, so then we went into a graphic novel. And I would just say, when we first started at the very beginning, we gave a lot of books away for free, just because we wanted to get it out there. And that's how it landed in the hands of lots of teachers, and those were the ones who would invite us to their classrooms, and they made it part of their curriculum and their syllabus. And so yes, I would say, it takes a lot of time and consistency. So our motto, we have a word called constanter. It's a Latin term, and it means with consistency. So you just kind of have to be like a ship that's just steady and constantly moving forward. And so I would just say, don't give up, and just, even if you just do a little bit of work every day, that little bit of work is going to add up, and eventually you'll get to a finished product. Because like I said, it took us 8 years to make our book, and when I gave Ronnie the script and the storyboards to turn it into a graphic novel, the moment he started working on it, 4 years later, I remember the day when he was just like, I'm done. And I'm like, with what? And he said, with the graphic novel. I'm like, what? Like, I even kind of forgot about it because I just moved on. And so then when I read the book again, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really funny. And it just made me think about who I was 8 years ago. And so you really just have to stay committed to your project and not lose hope, and just support, find support. If you don't have a team, just find people who are supportive, because those are going to be the people who just help you to not give up.
And so the support that you got, I mean, it sounds like you did have some support. I don't know if we can talk just a minute about the kind of reception you got and the support that you got.
Yeah, I would say, the other thing you want to do is put yourself out there. Create a website. So we have dukescomics.com. We're also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and because the more you tell people what it is that you're doing and what you want to do, word starts coming back to you about opportunities. So for example, we found out about MexiAmeriCon a week ago because a friend of mine in El Paso somehow saw it on Facebook, and then he forwarded it to us, and we're just like, what? Mexican-American Con, like I should be there. And so fortunately, Javier, thank you so much. Like we sent him an email and we just said, by any chance, can you fit us in? And he welcomed us with open arms, and he invited us. And so for us, it was worth it to make the trip. We drove, it takes 8.5 hours, but we drove with our dog, and so it took a little bit longer because he had to stop a lot. So it really takes, your family, like you need the support of your family. And so yes, so thank you for this venue, for creating this, because especially as people of color, writers and artists, there's not many of us, and at least in the mainstream industries, and so we need these type of spaces that are focused on people like us, and I think we can create, a movement. And so this is really beautiful what you're doing, and we appreciate your support and you having us here.
It's a no-brainer, and it needs to happen, and you guys are doing great work. So, yeah, absolutely. Definitely knock down the wall and get you guys here.
Thank you so much.
But, so where can people check you guys out?
Yes, so our website is www.dukescomics.com. So Dukes is our last name, and we're an independent publishing company.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate you being here and making that drive with your dog. That's great. That's awesome. That's what it's about. That's what this venue's about. And we hope to see you next year.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We're selling our book upstairs on the second floor in the dance studio. It's $25. It's over 100 pages, full color. It's amazing. This is the first anniversary edition, so you have the black label, so it's a very special edition. We changed the cover. We made a lot of special changes just to really commemorate our first anniversary. So I promise you won't be disappointed. And if you are, come talk to me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you so much.